Oh, let me tell you something. Busting makes me feel good.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Blockbusting, the podcast where we love to hate movies. I wish my arm would cooperate with me. I'm your host, Jay Light. Joining me today, another Jay from Dallas. It's Jay Mandyam.
Jay Mandyam. We're the photo negatives of each other.
Photo negatives of each other. A couple former door guys at the Comedy Store here. A couple Dallas ex folks. You're showing up in an SMU Mustang shirt.
I am, and I'm in your alma mater's home.
Yep.
Away from home.
Yep. And we're here to talk about what I think actually might be one of the most controversial episodes of not just the year, but of the podcast's history.
Oh my God, you're like The Bachelor, the most controversial episode ever.
This is how we get eyeballs and earballs on the screen, because you hated Everything Everywhere All at Once. You couldn't even finish it.
Yes. All right. So Everything Everywhere All at Once. I have not heard anyone say a bad thing about this movie.
No, I haven't either. Everybody who I've talked to has either loved this movie or liked this movie. And you're the first one.
Yeah, and okay, so I first heard about this movie because I'm in the graduate program at USC in their film school. So, I go to school with a bunch of pretentious film people.
Of course.
So they're all praising this movie, and I don't necessarily like a lot of the same things they like.
What would you say is like the average favorite movie of a pretentious USC film school student?
Anything done by one of the Andersons, Wes or PT,
okay,
or Edgar Wright. Those are the three that they seem to flock to over there.
And what about you? What's your favorite?
Man, it's funny. So, like, you remember when Bong Joon-ho won the Oscar for Parasite?
Yeah.
And he was like, this is such an honor to be nominated in the same category as my favorite directors. And I was thinking, like, I would never get to make an Oscars acceptance speech where I'm like, man, it's such an honor to be nominated in the same category as my favorite directors like Kevin Smith and Jay Chandrasekhar and Steve Odenkirk and Michael Moore. Like, never going to see that category.
It's not going to happen, unfortunately. Super Troopers 3 is not going to get nominated for any Oscars.
I will say this, though. Like, this year, I think all my favorite directors did have new movies because it was like Jay Chandrasekhar did Easter Sunday. Steve Odenkirk's got a new Thumb movie coming out this
Oh,
month.
He does?
Yeah. Kevin Smith did Clerks 3. Mike Judge had the new Beavis and Butthead movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd say this was a good year for my favorite comedic directors.
Steve Odenkirk bringing back the Thumb series.
Yeah.
I got to check that out. I watched all of those when I was a child.
I really like Steve Odenkirk.
He's a funny dude. Kung Pao, Enter the Fist.
Kung Pao, Nothing to Lose. Ace Ventura is nothing without Steve Odenkirk, and Jim Carrey will admit that.
Yeah, but Everything Everywhere All at Once.
So I hear everybody at school praise this movie. They're like, it's so funny. Then I'm in this acting class, and my acting teacher's like, yeah, I saw this movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's really good. It's really funny. So I'm like, all right, you know what? I miss mainstream comedies in the theater.
Uh-huh.
Maybe this is worth a shot. Maybe I'll watch this.
Sure.
I don't remember exactly why I didn't go to the theater to see it. I don't know if I missed the window or like it was only playing in certain theaters that weren't in my area. There's got to be like a valid reason why I didn't go to the theater to see it.
Probably.
So I have the AMC Stubs membership. So
and it was in theaters for a long time. It was in theaters. It premiered. It came out in late March in LA. And then I remember seeing it in a theater. I saw it in theaters twice. I saw it in a theater, like, I think opening weekend. I went and saw it because I was super hyped for it. And then I saw it in a theater in like July.
Or maybe the other reason I didn't go is like I would check AMC to see how many people had reserved tickets. And if it was only like a handful, I wouldn't go because I like to see comedies at a packed theater.
Okay.
Because
reason.
You feel the energy.
Yeah. This is definitely a movie that is a movie that, like other comedies, is enhanced by the we're all in this together watching it experience.
So, yeah, for whatever reason that I can't remember for the life of me right now, I did not get a chance to see it in the theater. So a torrent became available, so I illegally downloaded the torrent. And
We're a big advocate for legally downloading things here on the Blockbusting podcast.
Okay, all right,
I'm okay with it.
all right, as long as we don't tell my internet provider.
No, none of that. No internet provider will ever be found out or mentioned because I use VPNs.
Great.
Moving on.
Yeah, so I downloaded a torrent, and I'm like, I was excited to watch this movie because everybody has said good things about it.
Sure.
I shut it off after 40 minutes. 40 minutes, I was like, nothing is happening. There's something going on with taxes. There was like a kind of, it started to be like a cool action sequence when she was fighting Jamie Lee Curtis for no reason, but I still don't know what's going on. And I know there's something about multiverses, but 40 minutes, I haven't gotten an inciting incident. I haven't gotten any hint of a plot. I haven't gotten a hard laugh. And then I looked at it and was like, there's another hour and a half left in this movie. I can't do it. I can't do it. And I turned it off.
I'm speechless. All right. Jay, I think I mentioned this to you when you told me you wanted to do this on the show. I loved this movie more than I think I've loved any movie I've seen in the past maybe 20 years. 10 years at least. I'm going to say 10 to 15 because this is still not my number one of all time. But this is number one of the year for me, number one of the decade.
Number one of the decade. You were only in 2022. Okay?
I would still say including all of the movies from 2012 on to here.
All right. Okay.
It's a long decade.
Okay.
All right. This is the best movie that came out since 2008 in my mind.
Okay.
And I think that this is going to, we're in the thick of awards season now, especially by the time this episode drops. We have, as of recording, it has currently already won the best feature at Gotham Independent Film Awards. It has been nominated for Best Feature and a bunch of other awards at the Independent Spirit Awards, British Independent Spirit Awards also. It won Best Fantasy Film at the Saturn Awards. It won the Best Picture at the Hollywood Critics Association Mid-Season Film Awards. I mean, this thing's going to be a steamroller through the rest of award season, I think. Here you are.
Here's the okay. First of all, with
being
award
a
season,
contrarian.
With award season, you know that once so Golden Globe nominations should be coming out any day.
They'll be
now.
out definitely by the time this episode's out.
So once those happen, because a lot of times people will because this movie timing is always usually a factor in these awards for Golden Globes and the Oscars specifically.
Okay,
so this movie came out in March, and chances are it's gonna get, if they really are gonna make this push for the Golden Globes or the Oscars, if it's really gonna get a lot of buzz for those, because it might be forgotten by now for those awards.
I don't think it is.
But it'll get a re-release. If it gets a re-release, I will check AMC stubs to see a packed, and I will try and go.
But I've got to ask you this: so you tapped out at 40-minute mark,
40
right?
minutes.
So do you remember what was happening in the movie at that time point?
So there's something going on where he's vaguely explained the concept of verse jumping to her. She's in they're in this fight in the IRS office.
Okay.
And
have we seen Ke-Huy Quan Wayman? Have we seen him fight the IRS agents at this
so
point?
it's like the point I think I tapped out is like he's just like a new version of him that's good at fighting has just tapped into this body.
Oh my God.
And
so do you miss the fight sequence?
I saw like one that started to get cool and then it just kind of like petered out.
Where he's fighting with the fanny pack?
I think it was like, there was like one action sequence I watched and I was like, oh, this had the potential to be good. And then it just kind of petered out. But also I think I had just come off of this like thing where I was watching a bunch of like Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung movies and their fight sequences are like, it's like almost like watching a Chaplin or a Buster Keaton movie to watch those two fight. And so I'm looking at this kind of spoiled by watching Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung like fresh off of my memory. And I'm like, well, there's no Buster Keaton influence in this. There's no Chaplin influence in this.
That's so crazy to me because I feel like, I mean, maybe this is because you tapped out at 40 minutes in, which by the way, in an hour and 40-minute long movie, people have said like, oh, that's not enough time. I think that's enough time to gather whether or not you're going to like the rest of the movie or not. But you got so close to seeing some of the true, I think there is some like wacky Looney Tunes Chaplin-esque Buster Keaton-esque fight sequence. I mean, the movie was written for Jackie Chan originally to play the lead.
But here's the thing, all right? I'm an audience member. You had 40 minutes to get me. That's 40 minutes of my time that I gave you,
Right.
in the hopes that you were going to give me some entertainment in return. You had 40 minutes and you didn't give me a laugh. You waited. The best fight sequence happens at the 45-minute mark. Why isn't that in the first 10 minutes?
There is really, yeah, for your points that you're making, I'm trying to figure out the best way for me to like walk this line as not a fanboy of this movie, right? Because I don't want to like fanboy out on you because I don't think that that's fair. I mean, from a critical standpoint.
You're allowed to tell me what you liked about the movie and why you're allowed to tell me what hooked you in those first 40 minutes to make you stay for the entire journey. But you're allowed to tell me all that.
I will tell you all that, but I'm saying this like from hosting the podcast perspective. I think this is the toughest it has ever been for me. Realistically, did you ever see Swiss Army Man?
No. I remember seeing the preview. It's the same directors,
same
right?
directors.
Yeah.
And I haven't had a hard time since that movie. And I did that episode to now of like, oh, but you just didn't get it. But that's the thing. It's like up to the first 40 minutes. Like now that I know where the timestamp is, because I unfortunately did not get a chance to see this a third time before we did the episode. So we've gotten to right before the big Wayman fight sequence where he's got the fanny pack and he's beating the shit out of a bunch of IRS agents, which is a great fight sequence. We have a little bit of the underlying plot of the movie going on, which is the family drama element, right?
Right. She's got this daughter and she's got a dad.
Dad. The relationship with her and her husband is faltering.
Right.
He's going to file for divorce.
Right.
Daughter
is very like absent from the relationship with the mother.
Right.
She's distant.
But the mother's also as distant, and she doesn't want her to come out to the grandfather because she's afraid that there's going to be some sort of a backlash. But I think we already have, like, we've had a little bit of the multiverse has been hinted at this point in the movie, right? Like the stuff that interested me was seeing just the little bits and bobs that come through, right? Like very early on in the movie, we have this sequence that you don't see actually happen live in shot. You see it in the security cameras where you have Wayman who jumps to having the version of him from the Alphaverse shows up. He's like diving around on all the stuff in the laundromat. He brings the bag to the right person. He fixes the washing machine, whatever happens. And I saw that and just the slow zoom on that where you also have this drama of like, we're dealing with our taxes, all this bullshit's happening in the foreground. We see in the background, oh, there's something that's really interesting that's being, that we're going to explore more in addition to this surface level family drama stuff. Where I found the movie sung the most was shortly after you tapped out, unfortunately, which is really where it starts to marry these concepts, right? So we have the multiverse happening, and sure, there's a lot of big bombastic action sequences. There's a lot of really wacky fight scenes that go on. A lot of meta humor, not in like metaverse way, but in very much like self-referentials. Exactly. Yeah. I'm not trying to be clever here. I'm being literal. But then you also have the concept of multiverse as a way of exploring a family dynamic and relationships between family members, particularly between the mother and the daughter, and the mother and Ke Huy Quan's characters, Wayman, in a way that feels so it becomes beautiful in a way that you didn't expect. Like that's what I was. I was hooked because I was like, I want to see where this goes. And then I was floored by where it went. I think it did all of this stuff in a way that felt earned in a very surprising way.
So I when I was talking with your boy Ben yesterday,
good old Ben, shout out producer Ben.
Ben was telling me that he saw the movie in the theater, and he said at about the 2-hour mark, he was like, okay, I'm out. I've had enough. All right. And he felt like he was, I'm
didn't tell me about this.
paraphrasing here, but he basically said he felt like he was in a hostage situation for the last half hour of the movie because he was like, I get it, I understand. This movie can wrap up now. I'm good.
Sure.
So what you're telling me is between you and Ben, the best parts of the movie are from minute 45 to the 2-hour mark.
I don't know. Well, I think that's kind of the best part of any movie, right?
But
I haven't seen a movie that I thought the best part was in the first 15 minutes. And
I rewatched The Waterboy recently, and look, all right, like we all love classic Adam Sandler. That's
yes.
Unless, now here's what
I've never seen The Waterboy.
Okay.
To be fair, but Billy Madison. I know where we're coming from.
So this is what I noticed about The Waterboy recently on a rewatch. In the first 3 minutes, he gets fired from the football team that he works for. By the 15-minute mark, they've discovered that he's a great football player. That's 2 inciting incidences in the first 15 minutes of the movie.
But we have inciting incidents in this movie too. We have I would say we have the stuff with the family drama being kicked off, where we see the divorce papers, we see the drama with Michelle Yeoh's character and her stopping her daughter from coming out to her grandfather. I think those are 2 big incidents that become encompassed in the rest of the movie.
They don't set the plot in motion. They're just sort of little setups.
They do set the plot in motion though. In terms of what the movie is at thematically. This is something I've argued with Ben about. I think theme and plot are much more intertwined than he does. And I think perhaps maybe than you do too, because just by the way you're looking at me. But I think we're setting off the overarching, the thesis of the story is set off in that moment. And then we have the multiverse stuff happens pretty quickly after that. The multiverse stuff we see, there's some sort of a multiverse happening because we see it on the cameras. We see it in the security cameras. And then we see even more of it in the elevator, which is, again, my math could be off here, but I'm pretty sure that's right around the 20-minute mark, where he's in the elevator and he goes, "Hey, here's the note."
He gives her the sort of the fork in the road in the elevator because I remember seeing that. So that's definitely in the first 40 minutes.
That's definitely in the first 40 minutes.
Within the first 40 minutes.
I think it's in the first 20 minutes. I think that is basically at the 20-minute mark.
To me, that was a setup. That wasn't the thing that sets the thing in motion. Because it was... Then they're just in the IRS office and they're fighting and there's all these multiverse people. And I don't want to sit here and sound like I'm opposed to the concept of families and multiverses, because I did very much used to like the show Sliders, and that was
Sliders. I've never even heard of this show.
You don't know about Sliders?
I don't know
Jerry
about
O'Connell.
I don't know about Sliders with Jerry O'Connell.
Oh my god, it did 3 seasons on Fox, and then it went to the Sci-Fi Network. But those first three seasons I thought were incredible, and it's about these guys who are it's kind of like Quantum Leap in the sense of they're traveling to a different universe every week, a parallel universe, but they're lost. And they're looking for their home universe they're trying to get back to their home universe.
Okay.
And so then as we go through this, you kind of uncover that the main character, Jerry O'Connell, he's got this abandoned father. And so there's one universe where they get to where his father never left and he kind of wants to stay there. And so it's I'm cool with, I'm into the concept of a multiverse, and there can be family drama in the I'm intrigued by all that. Mm-hmm. Sliders managed to do that within 60-minute episodes. Actually, 40. This is network television, 42-minute episodes.
I have some reviews here that I think, because we're unfortunately, because you tapped out early from the actual movie, I don't want to get too caught up in discussing it with you on a further down the plot narrative.
You can spoil it for me. I don't.
It's not even that I don't want to spoil it for you. It's been out long enough. I think you can handle being spoiled. There's a lot of the most the sequences that when I saw it again in theaters. This is how I know I love this movie. And when I saw this movie in theaters again, I was brought to the same place emotionally and had the same reaction that I did the first time. That doesn't always happen, with a movie. I feel like it takes a really well-crafted, well-made movie in order to get me to that place again, right? Of like crying in the movie theater during certain sequences. For me, you'll see when you get to this part in the movie, there's a really intense sequence where we have the mother and the daughter are jumping between a bunch of different multiverses, fighting each other. It turns out the daughter is Jobu Tupaki, who I don't know if they mentioned her at all in the first.
No.
By the time they got to her, they might have like hinted at her, but you find out it's the daughter who is like this extra dimensional, multiversal villain.
So there's a villain in the movie that they didn't set up in the first 40 minutes.
Well, they set her up a little bit, but it turns.
Look, I am an average human being. You have to beat me over the head. I don't have time for subtlety and nuance, okay?
You know, it's funny that you think this movie is subtle, because there's a lot of the criticism of this movie is how much exposition there is.
So
we're talking, and I will say there are like Christopher Nolan levels of exposition in this movie.
The
multiverse out.
The other thing that dawned on me is everyone I've heard praise this movie is, somebody in the industry or, like aspiring to be in the, like it's actors, it's film scholars, it's directors, it's like, it's people I have not heard a normal person talk about this movie. Like when I go on the road, I don't hear people in the audiences talking about this movie. So I mean, I wonder if it really is just an industry thing because there's a difference between what the industry flocks to versus what people watch.
Sure. I feel like part of that is because this is, despite it becoming sort of a more wide release movie, it was still pretty indie. It's A24. It didn't come out in crazy wide release compared to, say, Top Gun Maverick, right? Which I would say another movie that like it's already gotten a re-release. That's definitely going to be an Oscar contender as a movie that is like for the masses, big ass popcorn movie, but still a movie that like has a level of poignancy to it that I feel like makes it an award season contender. I think that the difference in response here also is that this is a very different kind of a movie than what would typically be considered like Oscar bait, right? It's a really broad comedy with also a shitload of like Matrix-y action sequences. There's literally a sequence where they're fighting with dildos, right? In the multiverse, and having to like wrench that as like, oh, this is a thing that could happen in a movie that's nominated for Best Picture. It feels very silly from an industry perspective. But I think that there's a lot of problems with this movie that people who are in the critical space, at least, bring up. I think that this makes sense, right? I think that there are people who are saying draining exposition of the first half or the nonstop ridiculousness of the second half, the film never finds a good balance. Keith Garlington from Keith in the Movies. We have Peter Bradshaw from The Guardian, who's one of the top critics, according to Rotten Tomatoes. I wish I liked it more. That's the big overarching theme from there. We got Ryan Gilby from The New Statesman. A great deal of energy and talent has been expended here on the idealization of the family unit and a quest for United States that never existed. That's a lot. That's somebody who read into the plot, figured out what it was about, and still walked away being like, yeah, this is too wacky to talk about the idealization of what a family means in America. I think that there's like, this is a kind of movie that I feel like has some concepts and ideas that people of all walks of life can appreciate, but it's also not a movie that like my parents would like. Like, I want them to watch this, but I don't think they would like it.
Yeah, I feel like this was a movie because my dad, we watched a lot of movies together, and he, one of the things I used to do was just update his Netflix queue, and then once streaming came out, I would just be like, hey, let's watch this movie. Everyone's talking about it.
Yeah.
This is a movie that I probably would have been like, hey, let's watch this movie. Everyone's talking about it. I don't think he would have liked it.
Yeah. There's so much of this movie that I think is beautiful and cool, like the multiverse sequence I was talking about earlier, where we wind up in this version of the universe where everything is rocks, and all the dialogue happens in just captions that show up on the screen, and it's a really great sequence that brought me to tears. And I can't explain why without having the context of the entire movie up to that point to like hit me there. And it hit me there again and again.
But it brought you to tears.
Yes.
Like, because it was a moving moment or because of the beauty of the comedy?
Because it was a moving moment.
All right.
It goes from like a big, like I was laughing super hard to on a dime. It hits a really moving moment that made me cry.
Now,
Twice, back to back.
So, you know, we do stand up. So
Yes.
I think there is validity to juxtaposing emotions like that, because there is, like, to me, one of the things I love the most is building that silence and then hitting them with the laugh, because the laugh is harder once you juxtaposed an emotion like fear or sadness. And I think that the thing that Andy Kaufman was trying to do, which is almost impossible, was trying to juxtapose anger with laughter.
Right.
So I totally get that. I understand that. At the same time, I also, so coming from the background that we do of, you know, hard laughs,
Right.
You know, it's kind of binary. If something's funny, you laugh. If it's not funny, they don't laugh.
Exactly.
I've noticed that there is this sect of dramatic people, like people who write dramas, who think they know what comedy is. And you can feel that when a dramatic person is writing what they think comedy is, because they think comedy is easy. They
Yes.
think they don't consider it art.
Right.
So they think they know how to do it.
Right.
I feel like this is one of those movies that it's a dramatic person writing what they think is comedy.
See, I just don't feel that. I feel like, if anything, this is two comedy guys, because they're the writers and directors. They have done
I know they did a lot of music videos.
which is
probably why the thing looks incredible.
That's why it looks incredible. That's why it's super maximalist is the word that gets thrown around a lot with this movie. And I think that they have a lot of ideas within the movie, and they're just kind of showing off a little bit, right? So this is what happens when you have, I think, strong like visual directors. Not from we're like, let's divorce the writing from it. We have strong visual directors who figured out how to harness that into some semblance of like, all right, we're going to get some level of drama in here, but the drama also comes from pastiches and references to other things, right? Like, another one of the most, for me, moving, poignant sequences in the movie is a direct rip of a Wong Kar-wai film, In the Mood for Love, right? Which there's a great set of sequences where we have Michelle Yeoh's character at some point in one of the other multiverses becomes an action star in like Hong Kong action movies. And Wayman becomes, he shows up at one of her premieres as a fan. They had previously met each other and dated, and she decided to leave him to become an action star. And they have this great sequence where he talks about how he uses, it's so tough to explain.
One of the meta things that you love about this is the meta-ness of her being this action star in Hong Kong.
No, that's not even it though. Like, I think that's something that people love. I think that's something that critics and fan and like, you know, film nerds and film scholars appreciate. I appreciated the message that they had within that, which was, we have the Ke Hai Kwan's character. We have Waymond talking in this sequence about sort of the antithesis of what at this point Michelle Yeoh's character is talking about, where she's like, I'm not really exceptional. I'm just a person, and I am going to. She's sort of falling. What does they say? Better angels of our nature, or falling prey to whatever. Worse angels. There's some version. There's something that I'm like totally butchering.
Okay.
But she's her baser self. I think that's the best way to do it, right? Where you're like, you're not really thinking about anyone else. You're purely acting on on self-will and trying to just like, I'm just going to do what feels good for me. I'm going to be selfish and I'm going to do this. And what Waymond is doing, and he sort of elucidates it in the sequence, he talks about it a little bit more effectively than I'm about to now. I'm totally going to butcher it. But he says something like, "This is how I fight. This is I use positivity. I use thinking to try and make the world that I live in just a little bit better, and that's how I feel better." I'm like I said, I'm totally butchering it, but that's another sequence that like it's moving, and I felt it move me both times that I watched it, and I could see. Again, there are critics who don't like the stuff that happens in there, right? Like we had Richard Brody of The New Yorker with its bland and faux universal life lessons that cheaply ethicalize expensive sensationalism. The film comes off as a sickly, cynical feature-length directorial pitch reel for a Marvel movie. Sure, the stuff that they're talking about in sequences like that, like the positivity is a better way to live sequence. Yeah, it's a little
cheesy.
It's a little cheesy. I can't say it's not cheesy. But it's still like it still worked for me, and I can't. There's nothing I can do about that.
So I mean, look, I find myself asking this question a lot in film school.
Please.
Is who is this movie for? Like, what's the point of a great story? Like, or what's the point? What's the point of a movie that looks great when the story sucks? Like, like sure, it looks great, but if you have no story, what's the point? What's the point of analyzing? What's the point of going further into it? So we've agreed that this movie looks great.
Yes.
We've agreed that there's problems with the script. I think they could have whatever's going on in that first 40 minutes that you say, like, sets up the rest of the movie, like, they could have shortened that and bring in the rest. Like, it didn't need to be 2.5 hours long. It didn't need to.
I think we don't agree on there being the same problems with the script, though. Because I feel like this is what I feel like the film achieves in like an emotional sense makes up for the problems that I perceive with the script, which is that there's too much exposition. You kind of got to have exposition to explain a multiverse,
Yeah, but
I think.
You know what? Beavis and Butthead did a multiverse movie. They explain it pretty simply.
How do they explain the Beavis and Butthead multiverse?
There's two Beavis. There's a smart Beavis and a smart Butthead from another universe that come to Beavis and Butthead and the universe that we know them from and say, hey, we're you from another universe. You've fucked this thing up in your universe that's going to cause problems with every other universe, so you need to fix this. And then they're out. Done.
Where in the movie does that take place?
It happens within the first, it's got to be in the first 20 minutes.
Okay. Because that happens, I mean, that happens in this movie, but we have Michelle Yeoh's character resisting it. That's I think the major difference.
Well, Beavis and Butthead resist it too.
Yeah, but
they just don't know they're resisting it.
They just don't know. They're just going for it, right? I would imagine that they're like, all right, we don't want to deal with this, but they get sucked into it anyway, right?
They're just like oblivious. They're just like, who the fuck are those guys?
Exactly. See, okay, so this I think is this is where we're going to get into the differences between, and I say this to somebody who hasn't seen the Beavis and Butthead multiverse movie. We have in this movie, Michelle Yeoh's character is as reluctant of a hero as you can get in a movie. She doesn't want to be the person who saves the universe, the multiverse. She externally is saying, I don't want to be involved with this. I have my own shit to deal with. I have to figure out my taxes or else I'm going to lose my business. I'm having family problems. I might go through a divorce with my husband. All sorts of fucking problems are happening. And internally, she is grappling with, am I a good mother or a bad mother? Am I a good wife or a bad wife? Did I fuck up royally by choosing this life? And the moment that I think we start to see the dominoes fall from a storytelling perspective of like answering those questions later in the movie, which I think is bound to happen in a movie. You kind of get your questions answered late anyway. That's just how storytelling works. I don't know why I'm explaining storytelling to you. You understand how storytelling works. Maybe there's a listener out there who doesn't know how stories work and have gotten
Aristotelian narrative arc.
But I think that, like, as much as there are, I can agree. Even as somebody who says this is one of my all-time favorite movies and one of the best movies of all time for me. and can still say there are problems with this script and there are problems with the way that this story is told. I think that the emotional arc of these characters and the way that they grow and change over the course of the entire movie, for me, I haven't seen a movie pull that off as with as much variance and in the amplitude of the wave of the story. Look at that thing I just brought in there. Look at that visual. With as much of the wide swath of insanity that happens in this movie, for there to find not just like a solid narrative through line, but one that actually brings you along that ride and makes you feel those emotions, all the highs, all the lows, all the laughs, all the tears, and still comes out on the other end with your characters having changed and stuff being resolved in a storytelling, in a narrative framework. I think that for me is why this movie still works, even though it has problems.
So now when you put it in that terms, in those terms, it makes me not buy this story even more, because I'm like, wait, this chick knows that there's parallel universes and she's still worried about her taxes? Like, come on. The taxes, now you know how meaningless your taxes are when you know there's a whole multiverses out there. Now you
but
know,
it takes her a while to get on board with that.
You know how meaningless, oh wait, I'm a bad mother? Who cares? In another universe, you're a good mother. Who cares? Like, now it's like, it makes me not even want to buy this story, because now you know how meaningless your universe is. And for you to still put this weight on there, like, why?
I think, you know what? Honestly, I do think is I think you got to see the full. I think you got to watch the full movie. And if you still don't like it after that, I can understand. And I think I'm going to have to just let myself accept that you might still hate this movie even after watching the whole thing.
I will cede you the very real possibility that because everybody built it up and said it's a great movie, that I could have already come in with a preconceived notion that I'm not going to like it because everybody else liked it. I will cede you that. I concede you that. Now, so you said there's a Wong Kar-wai thing. It's real. I didn't even know this guy Wong Kar-wai existed until 2020 or 2021.
Right, when all the film school nerds were all like, "Oh, have you seen In the Mood for Love?"
I'm like, what the? And I thought his name was Juan. J-U-A-N. I thought his name was Wong Kar-wai. I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
Juan Kar-wai, my favorite used car salesman.
So now this brings me back to the question of, who is this for? Who is this Wong Kar-wai sequence for? Is it for you, the filmmakers, or is it for an audience? Because when I hear you tell me something like that, I'm like, I can feel the directors masturbating over this. Oh, we put in a Wong Kar-wai reference for all the Wong Kar-wai fans. Maybe Wong Kar-wai will notice. Like, who cares? Who is that for?
I think here's what I say, and this is my tying a bow on this. I think that this movie is for everyone.
Everywhere, all at once.
But I do really, like, I think that there's something that if you allow yourself to just kind of like see the movie and just run with it, because it is a very chaotic movie. There's a lot going on. It is all of the things that people hate about it, the maximalism, the overstuffed, too many ideasness of it, the frenetic pace, the all over the place levels of like highbrow comedy to lowbrow comedy. I think all the criticism that people have, I'm not going to say it's not valid. It's there. Like, I can't say it's not there. It's obviously there. But I think that if you get swept up in it the way that I have and the way that so many other people who've seen this movie have, this movie is for you. And sure, there's going to be little bits and pieces in there that you're going to be like, oh, wow, as a Wong Kar-wai fan, I appreciated this homage that they did to his filmmaking. But you're also going to go, oh, wow, as a Pixar fan, I appreciated that they have a whole fucking Ratatouille sequence. Or, oh, as somebody who liked that one song, The Story of a Girl from the 1990s, I appreciate that they found a way
9 days?
Yes, they found a way to interpolate that in the movie, in the soundtrack, and in the score, and have it be literally like a sequence that happens in the movie.
Okay.
I think that it's for everyone, but there's little bits and pieces that the nerd types and the hyper fan types can find and be like, oh yeah, that thing. Oh, that thing. Oh yeah, I know what that thing is. That's a Wong Kar-wai.
Why'd you say it like an Asian? That's a Wong Kar-wai.
Hey, I'm just saying it like I don't know what's going on. How dare don't you throw that on me? All right, I'm trying to get out of here unscathed.
Look, I'll make you this promise. If for awards season they do a re-release in the theaters, I will go see it with a packed audience.
Okay.
And if my mind changes, I will gladly come back on your podcast to admit that my mind has changed.
You heard it here first, folks.
Now, if my mind has not changed, I won't come back on because nobody wants to hear me bitch about the movie for another hour. But
and I'll tell you what, if I watch the movie again and my mind changes, then I will have you back on to say I told you so for 45 minutes. Just over and over and over again. Every possible way. We shake on that?
We'll shake on it. Yeah, blockbusting audience.
Blockbusting audience. There you go. Look at that. We got it on both cameras.
Blockbusting audience. This is for you, Jay.
Oh.
Since you'll
Oh.
You know what?
What do we got going on here?
Here we go.
The Blockbuster membership card.
I still have
Oh my
mine.
God. That's excellent. What a find.
Yeah.
Jay, where, by the way, if the listeners
If they want to troll me,
if they want to troll you, or if they want to come out,
Y fans want to find me,
or if the Daniels haters also come out and they'll be like, I also hated Everything Everywhere All at Once. Where can they tell you to your face digitally?
I'm on Instagram. God hates J, just the letter J. God hates J, just the letter J.
Perfect. You can follow the podcast at Blockbusting Pod on all the social media platforms. Also, don't forget, if you like the show, please consider subscribing on Patreon. You get $5 a month, access to full JFlix film library, which as soon as I can get my hands on Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's going in there. But there's also $1 a month if you want to just throw me a buck and help support the show, get the things made, good stuff. J. Thanks again.
J Light, Dark J.
Multiverse J's.
Yes.
This is every J everywhere all at once. And this has been Blockbusting. Go see something good for a change.